Right. A very good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the ASEAN Study Center, thank you for joining this live webinar, broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook. We will begin shortly, but before that, I would like to announce that ASEAN Study Center is holding a creative content competition that is open to public with a prize worth up to $150 Apple gift cards. You can join in the competition through the link presented on the screen and submit your works before 31st August 2020. Don't forget to follow our social media on Instagram at ASC UGM, Facebook at ASEAN Study Center Universitas Gadjah Mada. And also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This webinar is a collaboration between the ASEAN Youth Organizations and ASEAN Study Center, so you can also click on the follow button on their Instagram page at AYO ASEAN. So, welcome all, and welcome back to our third and last webinar of the ASEAN Day 2020 series, presented by the ASEAN Study Center from the Faculty of Social and Political Science, Universitas Gadjah Mada. ASEAN Study Center, Universitas Gadjah Mada was established in collaboration with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Indonesia to generate critical scientific research and enhance the positions and contributions of Indonesia in the ASEAN. Today, we are honored to have Lyndon, the Director of Youth Empowerment at the ASEAN Youth Organizations. Good afternoon, Lyndon. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon. And good afternoon to everyone who is watching the webinar.
Yeah, I think some of them are already tuning in. But so yeah, today Lyndon, on behalf of ASEAN Youth Organizations, as one of the leading youth-based organizations in the region, will share with us on the topic of embracing ASEAN identity to build a resilient community, the perspectives of the ASEAN Youth Organizations. My name is Fadila, and it's my pleasure to be the moderator in today's event. I believe that our viewers cannot wait to hear all about the ASEAN Youth Organizations, or we can say AYO, and its works, the opportunity that is available for the youth and most of our previous viewers, as I hope you all are ASEAN enthusiasts. This webinar is a third and last event of our ASEAN Day celebration series. And as I have mentioned before, we are also organizing creative content competitions, and we want your best ideas on the ASEAN identity. It could be in the format of a poster, a short video, or a photo, or a piece of short writing. We are accepting submissions until the end of this month, until the 1st of August, and you can go to our Instagram page for more information. And hopefully, this webinar could be a source of inspirations for your submissions. Just to have a quick overview of today's agenda, we will begin with a sharing by Lyndon. I will give some brief responses as the discussions before we open the floor to the questions from our audience. And we look forward to receiving your questions on our YouTube and Facebook comment sections. And finally, we will hear a concluding remark from Lyndon. Before I pass the time to you, Lyndon, let me just introduce you briefly to our audience members. Lyndon serves as the Director of Youth Empowerment at ASEAN Youth Organizations. He joined the group in 2019, where he first led its US chapter. Today, he runs the inaugural ASEAN's Youth Ambassador Program of ASEAN Youth Organizations, convening 100 participants from an applicant pool of 1,000. Previously, he is a lieutenant in the Singapore Armed Forces. He is now an undergraduate at the Duke University, majoring in statistics and history. In his free time, you can find him biking, exploring nature, or watching husky videos. So, without further ado, the floor is yours, Lyndon.
Yeah, hi. So once again, welcome everyone. Though I can't see you, in your images in front of me, but huge welcome, and I hope you enjoy some of what I share today about the work that we do at AYO. And yeah, so today's talk is, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what the work that we do at AYO, and hopefully that will inspire you to go on and either join us, which would be awesome, or you can hope that this would be an inspiration for you to also create your own impact in the broader ASEAN and regional community. So yeah, without further ado, let me just hop on in. These are the things that we'll be talking about today. And so a little bit about the history of AYO. We started in 2011. Our founder, Jace and Jaya Mulaya, he started this really kind of as a Facebook page at first, trying to gather youth from all over ASEAN to kind of come together and kind of connect through a digital platform that eventually grew to something way larger. That was when they started kind of connecting with youths, not just in ASEAN, but also in places like Japan and in Australia. And when it grew larger, they wanted to kind of set up a proper organization for this. And it was in 2015 that we were incorporated in Jakarta. In 2018, we started thinking about, not just creating impact, but we wanted to create sustainable impact. And trying to solve the biggest problem of the biggest conundrum that all social enterprise faces, which all nonprofit face, which is how can we fund ourselves going forward, and how can we make sure that our impact is not just for the short term, it's something for the long term. And that's why in 2018 we set up a social enterprise to make sure that we generate some means to actually fund ourselves. So we were, AYO-SE, as we call it, that was first incorporated in Singapore in 2018. And in 2020, we were happy that we were able to expand that operation to Indonesia, Myanmar, and Vietnam. The social enterprise work is not something that I personally lead, but obviously, if you have more questions later, I'll try my best to answer them, and I could connect you up with the relevant person if you're interested to learn more. Today, we are about 70 people strong. We have about 100 AYO ambassadors. We have more than 6,000 active volunteers, 400,000 social media following, and also many, many partners who we work with actively. So really, there are kind of four main pillars and themes that kind of guide the work that we do. Firstly, I think we want to be an ASEANer. We want to engage youth in thinking about not just their national identities, but also their regional identities. Thinking about the impact that they not just can make within their national communities, but also the broader ASEAN community. And to do that, we obviously collaborate with many other partners, some of which I will talk about in my presentation. We see ourselves also as a social enterprise, as we said, that was incorporated in 2018. And finally, I think we see ourselves as agents of change in Southeast Asia. There are issues that each of us are passionate about. Some of us, environmental change, some of us gender equality. And again, these are things that I will share more as we go on along in the presentation. So yeah, when I say that we think about ourselves to be here for the long haul, I do mean it. Our mission for the long run is to impact 10 million lives by 2025. So as you can see, we do have a 5-year plan in mind. We're thinking about how we can stay relevant for the next, not just 1 year, 2 years, but in 5 years, what we want to achieve. How we make sure that we organize ourselves in a way that we continue to be here 5 years down the road. So yeah, so we are organized into, these are, the array of things that we organize, but mainly we are organized into 3 main pillars: youth empowerment, social voluntarism, economic enhancement. Youth empowerment in particular is the division that I lead. So specifically what we do at Youth Empowerment is that we conduct workshops, seminars, training sessions to make sure that we actually give youth the tools and the kind of skills that they need to actually find confidence both in their professional setting and also in their personal settings. And as I go on to share kind of the work that we do, I hope that this would kind of prompt you to think about what kind of impact that you can make for the region, and also the kind of collaboration that you can maybe have as you reach out to other people, other youths who are in the region. So yeah, so our flagship program is the AYO Ambassador Program. We started this earlier in the year, where we asked for applications to join us in our ambassador program. This is a 4-month program where youth can join us, and through the program they would together with us. They will do 4 projects, 2 individual projects, one group project where they work in teams of 10 with ambassadors from other ASEAN countries, as well as a capstone project. For the capstone project, that's something that AYO would provide them funding with. And yeah, so out of 1,000 applicants, we selected about 100 ambassadors to join us this year. They have done an amazing job. You can go on to our Instagram and see the kind of work that they've been doing. And then yeah, I'll show you 1 or 2 samples later on as well. So apart from that, there are other things that we were working pre-COVID. The first is the Leader Academy. This was actually done in collaboration with one of a huge supermarket chain in Indonesia. So they approached us and kind of asked us if we could work with them to design a management training program where we actually use where we think about how we can train this new management trainee in their retail operations. And that's something that this was a kind of a new opportunity for us, and we worked with them and designed a curriculum around the top 10 skills needed in the future of jobs. And though this was kind of postponed due to coronavirus, now that hiring activity has stopped, this is a sample of the kind of work and opportunity that we get to work on in IO. Before COVID-19, earlier in the year, we also had a seminar, personal development seminar in Myanmar, where we gathered more than 500 participants. You can see here in this photo on your left, we gathered many in-person participants to join our events, just as we continue to do now that we actually hold most of our events digitally on Zoom and on our webinars. So before my tenure, there were also other events that we've been doing. For example, more webinars in Myanmar, in Yangon, and in PA. There were also the ASEAN Youth Exchange, which we did last year. This was a program where we gathered about 20 youths, and we kind of brought them around 3 countries, Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia, in about 1 week. So it was a very tight schedule, but we actually brought them to different places where they learned about social issues, environmental issues, design thinking, etc. And from time to time, we also kind of create training program for to learn about soft skills or personal development, etc. Some of the more recent projects that we have been doing, some of which are done by our ambassadors. So let me just share with you one that is one of my favorite. This was actually done by my group, the group that I mentor in the Youth Ambassador Program. It's about 10 of them. They came up with this idea about, okay, like, is it possible that we invite Miss Universe Malaysia and Indonesia to come together for an event? And that's exactly what we did. They actually got the first runner-up for Miss Universe Malaysia in 2016, and also the first runner-up for Puteri Indonesia in 2018, to come together and talk about what they think about female rights look like in their own home countries, and how we can continue to actually expand our work empowering women in the region. We also had talks by policy researchers on how to work and how to continue conducting educational programs during the during the COVID period. We have environmental change projects. This is a capstone project by one of our ambassadors. And beyond projects by ambassadors, there were also projects which are spearheaded by the IO team that are also focused on giving youth the skills that they need. Like we said, to find confidence in their professional and private settings. We had the honor of working with the EU ambassador to ASEAN, where we were actually collaborating with them to celebrate the EU ASEAN Day. We got him to kind of get on a Q&A session with us. So that was a really great experience. Apart from that, we had sessions with like the chairman of the ASEAN Youth Community, as well as other members of like the ASEAN Human Development Organization, etc. So yeah, so the next pillar that we work on is social voluntarism. The difference here with youth empowerment is that instead of giving a platform and also the skills to our youth to achieve the impact that they want, social voluntarism is really about us coming together and actually instead of empowering others, being at the forefront of creating that change ourselves. So some things that we do, volunteer activities, charity events, rural education, as well as workshops, advocacy workshops. So one of my favorites is the UNDP Movers Program. This is led by one of our our AYO member, Maria. So what they do is that they will come out with these workshops that this is actually in collaboration with the UNDP itself. So what they do is that this would be like a 1-2 hours workshop where we actually orientate youths to what the SDGs are, and also prompt them to think more about the kind of impact that they can make as part of this SDG network, SDG kind of goal framework. Maybe choose 1 or 2 goals that speaks out to you most, and kind of think about the kind of action that you can take to actually move us towards achieving those SDGs. Apart from that, we obviously also have AYO webinars where we actually actively talk about some of these cutting edge social issues happening in ASEAN today. So some examples of this, we had a collaboration event with AYO and AYO India. What we did was that we had a dialogue surrounding gender equality. We invited gender and governance specialists from the UN Women Indonesia, and also other members from the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights to kind of speak to again a new vision for what female empowerment in ASEAN looks like. There was a clean project before before we went to the COVID period, where we actually were cleaning up, we're doing some cleaning activities in Yangon, Myanmar. Relating to COVID, we actually had a seminar, a webinar where we actually got the country representatives from all different country branches to come get together and talk about the impact that they've been making during this COVID period. And if I could share with you some photos, this is some of the great work that they did right at the start of the pandemic, where they came together and kind of create to make actually care packs for the community. This was when many of the governments in Southeast Asia were kind of in a frantic position. It was right at the start. People didn't really know how to react to the pandemic, and this was when civil society participation was extremely important. And yeah, so they really stepped up to the task. If you could see here, these boxes were made by ASEAN Youth Organization, AYO Malaysia. They made care packs and actually distributed them to the freelance workers and also other community members. We also had members, all across Myanmar who actually kind of again, gave out cleaning products to community members, in their area. So this is the kind of we don't just create webinars, we don't just create dialogues, but when we actually see ourselves actively creating the change that we want to on the ground. And obviously when when COVID is when we're back to our normal lives, we definitely want to create more in-person workshops, in-person engagement, which we haven't really been able to do under this COVID situation. So yeah, lastly, there was also economic enhancement. This in particular is where we kind of talk about economic issues that actually concern Southeast Asia. There was one on women entrepreneurship, which we partnered with UN Women and also a Canadian partner to actually come up with. Apart from that, we also have our flagship ASEAN Youth Conference, so do keep a lookout for that. The ASEAN Youth Conference will be held in Vietnam this year. It's an annual event. Obviously, this year we're going digital rather than in person, but do stay tuned for more information about that. This is our flagship event where we'll get panel speakers, great panel speakers to talk about ASEAN issues and to think about really some of the very forefront social and environmental issues that we are facing today. The ASEAN Youth Exchange, I've talked about that, and there are other programs that we are happy to run, and so do keep a lookout for the events that we're running, on our Facebook page. So if not, let me just talk a little bit about AWSC. It was again founded in 2018. We're headquartered in Singapore. Really, the aim is to increase social mobility of ASEAN youths by investing in social entrepreneurship, youth development, and to provide them a platform for them to really kind of navigate the professional setting and also the entrepreneurship ecosystem. This is led by one of our co-founders, Jaren, who you would be able to see here. This is Jaren, and this is the Singapore team and also the Singapore office. So yeah, so social enterprise, that kind of really sits at the heart of the three other pillars. It kind of aggregates the ambition of all the other divisions. And I'm going to talk about some of the programs that they do. So one of the things that they do is a kind of like an enrichment program where they kind of work with youths to kind of give them hard skills, where they actually teach them things like robotics, orientate them to things like Internet of Things, which is a very cutting edge buzzword that you'll hear when people talk about Industry 4.0. And obviously there'll be other things about the environment, but this is what they do. This is like the social entrepreneurship parallel of what we do in my division, Youth Empowerment. There's also the ASEAN Entrepreneurial Program, where they actually bring them into a 3 to 6 months program, where they give them, kind of orientate them to what it means to kind of be an entrepreneur and how to think like an entrepreneur. And finally, there's also an Accelerator Program, where they bring youth together to think about the impact that they can make with regard to the 17 SDGs. This is obviously a lot more action oriented, where we don't just talk about what the SDGs are, but specifically about what idea you have in mind, what business model you can create to help you achieve these SDG goals in a way that not just impacts a large community of people, a large geography of people, but also over a very longer and a more sustainable period of time. So these are some collaborators that we have: AWWA, Social Collider, and also Vivita. Some of these are social entrepreneurship programs themselves. So it is super great that the AYOSC have been able to do this in Singapore with so many partners. So there are some other events that are upcoming, like the Entrepreneurship World Cup, which obviously you can take a screenshot of this and hopefully you can apply. If not, you can check out more about AYOSC on our website. But if not, let me just round things up. Since our establishment in 2011, we have created many projects related to Southeast Asia, empowerment, education, environment, and ASEAN development. And we do see that this is something that will continue to grow. And we're going to have a new leadership this year. And we're making more changes to really kind of make sure that, again, like we said, we're not just creating impact, but that we're going to create sustainable impact for the long run. So yeah, these are our partners that we've been working with. And if not, if you're excited about the work that we do, keep a lookout for us. We're gonna send out more information about ways to join our membership, kind of currently going through a process. We are overhauling our membership program, but very soon we'll have a committee program, a committee member kind of track where you join us in creating events, and also a regular member track where you'll be able to kind of join in some of the events that you know that we create. You can have priority, if you're a member, to kind of sign up for some of the webinars or some of the in-person events that we create. So yeah, what you can do is to go onto our website, express your interest there, and stay on our newsletter so that we can actually inform you when we actually do open up the new membership programs later this year. If not, be sure to follow us on one of our social media platforms, and we would love to connect with you further on this. Yeah, if not, thank you so much. That's all for my presentation, and I think the hope really is that, I know this sounds like like a plug about about AYO. It sounds like a recruitment pitch, but let it not be that way. I think a lot of the work that we do really relates to our belief that we're not just Singaporean, we're not just Indonesians, we're not just Burmese, but we are also part of a broader regional community, Southeast Asian community and ASEAN community. And there's a lot more opportunities that we're able to uncover when we actually work across nations. There are many issues that we face that are really cross-cutting across geographies. The same problem that we may face in Indonesia, maybe something that youth also face in say Malaysia or Laos, and that's something that when we pool our resources and we pool our brains together, that's when we're able to kind of really solve them and really get things going across these countries. So yeah, so if not, that's the end of my sharing, and I'll hand back the time over to Fadila.
Cool. So thank you very much for your profound and insightful presentations, Lyndon. Several interesting points that I gathered from your sharing. Some of them are like, for example, not AYO, not only youth organizations, but also it definitely empowers youth and gives them a deeper understandings about ASEAN in our society, and also with the missions of impacting 10 million's life, which is very, I can say, ambitious in some way by the year of 2025. It gives reflecting from the projects that AYO has with many stakeholders and prominent actors such as UN, a lot of stakeholders in the many regions, and also definitely empower people to have particularly for the youth to be active in the volunteers, and also even in the pandemics situations that we have recently. And we are in the year of the ASEAN identity, we are all realize that youth is, of course, the frontliner of the ASEAN futures, and we believe our audiences today could benefit much for your sharing. Thank you so much, Lyndon. So before we continue with questions from our audience, I would like to kickstart our discussions with questions to you. From your perspectives, what is ASEAN Youth Organization's view of the narrative of ASEAN identity? Like, how ASEAN Youth Organizations incorporate ASEAN identity through its projects and also programs?
That's a great question. So maybe I could I could maybe speak first about how we are organized. So we do have, like we said, we do have 3 different divisions. So these divisions tend to work on issues which tend to be more cross-cutting, and as much as possible, most of the programs that we do, we always think about, okay, how would this issue not just speak to, say, youths in Singapore, but also youths, in Malaysia, in Myanmar, and also in Vietnam. So that really kind of, in our planning process, that becomes something very practical, right? Like we would have projects which are very that will apply to a broad segment of youth that are not just in one country. So it's like, skills that young people need, like a talk with the EU ambassador to ASEAN, which is, which really talks about high level issues at the ASEAN level. So I think this is something we're very mindful of. But apart from the three divisions, we actually also have country representatives that actually kind of think about the impact that they can make nationally. So I think when we are organized that way, it really allows us to have different platforms, right? So different people leading different different divisions. The country representatives will think about country level impact, whereas the division directors, like myself, would think about events that maybe cater to a broader segment of youth. They're not just in one country. So that's from a very operational stand. But really, I think for us, being an ASEAN means that even if I'm a Singapore youth, I'm also concerned about issues that are happening in other countries. As I fight for gender equality in Singapore, I also want to hear perspectives about how other youths are actually working to do that in Indonesia, for example. As we are working with at-risk youth in Vietnam, we also want to reach out to partners, say in Malaysia, to make sure that the tools that we implement, that we can exchange some learning that we have between our different countries, and also make sure that we can maybe sometimes pool our resources together to solve these problems. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for answering my first questions. Moving on, I think we have several questions from our audience members. The first questions that I think is also linked with my questions earlier. From Nadia Isabel, what does ASEAN mean to you? We live in a global environment, so how can we use the ASEAN identity not only to empower the Southeast Asian nations, but also the world?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, I guess if it's a personal question, I can't speak for everyone in AYO, but I think for myself, well, that's a great question. I think to me, I've always been, I would be frank with you. I think I have not thought about extending my impact to the entire world. It's also, I think this is something that they like to say in business, right? When you try to when you try to make an impact, or you try to capture a group that basically encompasses everyone, what happens is that you end up reaching no one at all, because the work that you can do, really, I think it's awesome that we think about a global impact, a global vision, and it's good to have that in mind. But when we think about the impact that we do and the actions that we can take, we often need to start locally, and perhaps regionally. So that I would say that my focus has always been, being an ASEAN means that I actively think about not just the partners that I can work with in Singapore, but also with this amazing other 70 youths in the committee, so that I can work with youth from other nations and see how we can work with them to solve some of the issues that are relevant to all of us in ASEAN. So I think, in short, I think for me, yes, I think we can have a broad global vision, but when it comes to creating impact, really I'm personally more interested in creating impact, for my regional community and people who I guess live close to me, and whom we already have a strong network in creating our impact in. Yeah.
Great. We hope that it can answer your questions, Nadia Isabel. So moving on to the second questions from Nadila Trisi. So now, with the threat of nationalistic approach to an economic recovery after a pandemic, what can the youth, from your perspective of ASEAN, do to echo the message of collaborations in regional contexts?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. So I would say that yeah, that's a great question. I think firstly, um, we have not had. I think a lot of the issues that we work on are um, are more social, more environmental. But it doesn't mean that we don't work on economic issues at all. Um, I would say that you know, I hear your point that nationalism is it's something that confronts many democracies today, or democracies or non-democracies alike. Um, and obviously in this period countries are very very nervous about rebuilding their own economy, and to some sense maybe following the the practice of America. I think some countries have really kind of turned to a more nationalistic position. Well, I will be frank with you, I don't think we have a program specifically that answers to that works on economic nationalism, or even just about the broader spirit of nationalism per se. But I think I will venture to say that I don't think the work that we do. I think at the core of the work that we do is to kind of remind people that that we cannot think about issues nationally, but we really need to start thinking about them regionally. And I think some of these examples would come from, say, when we think about the kind of work that even we kind of can do as youths. When we talk about COVID, that was when our different country representatives came together. I think on first glance, it definitely seems like, okay, like each country is doing work on their own. But I think far from that, I think what we do really kind of mimics the spirit that I think ASEAN has been really holding, which is that yes, I think action is often taken at the country level, but this doesn't stop us from continue sharing our good practices with other countries in the ASEAN group, and that's what we do, right? If IO Malaysia has done this great event to actually come up with, it really started with IO Malaysia kind of first coming up with this idea of giving out care packs to the community, and that kind of spurred other action in our country offices to actually inspire them to actually also create a similar impact in their own community. So in that sense, I think to wrap up my answer to your question, I think we I would say we don't quite have an exact program that or exact webinar that actually speaks to nationalism. That's a super great idea. Maybe that's something that we should pursue and we can pursue. But I think in all our work, we constantly remind people that we need to start thinking as a region. Let's start collaborating all across. With not just counterparts with in a single country, but also across ASEAN. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. I think there's also another questions, Lyndon. Hope you're not tired of answering this because we have
Oh no,
lots of
yeah.
questions. um, so the next
I hope
question is
I'm
from
answering them, because I would say that like I said, IO is a huge organization. It's about 70 of us. So there are things that and it's not quite the division that I cover. But if there's something specific that you're interested in, feel free to reach out to me. I think I forgot to include my email. I can include it in the comment section later on. And you can feel free to reach out to me, and I could link you up with the right person to kind of speak more to you about this, some of these work that we do.
yes, definitely. It would be very appreciated. So the next questions is from Von. I think it's still linked with the previous questions. So how some of the youth remain passive and not embrace of our ASEAN identity. Well, like those feeling of, oh, what is ASEAN? So how do we answer? Like how does IOAO ensure inclusivity and active participations of all youth in the ASEAN regions? Or basically like started from the IU members itself?
Right, right. Wow, that's a great question. I think I can speak to this from my personal experience. I think I didn't think about ASEAN at all prior. Um, for the longest period, in my adolescence, I didn't think about ASEAN, and why would we, right? I think most of us, are naturally only concerned with our national community. It's a community that we are familiar with, as compared to the broader ASEAN nation, the ASEAN community, right? It's very hard to build that kind of connection with, how can I create, how is it possible that I feel affection for say Indonesia if I don't have any Indonesian friends. So I think for me, how that really happens, I think both on campus in the US and also for me personally in the region, I think that really happens when you actually start working with youths that are from some of these ASEAN countries, and I would say that because we have quite a few Indonesians in IO, I think naturally I've become very fond of Indonesia. It's a place that I feel like anytime if I were to travel there, I feel like there will be people to welcome me, and it makes me feel like that I'm not just a Singaporean, right? Like that I can feel like an ASEAner because I have ASEAN friends and I feel a connection to the broader ASEAN community. And if my experience is anything, can speak to anything, I think it is that youths, who like you said, you may be passive and may not embrace the ASEAN and the identity. I think the first step to really kind of get them into this entire ASEAN narrative is for us to actually introduce them ASEAN friends, right? And a way to do that is to join a more regional platform like ASEAN Youth Organization, and I'm sure there are also other youth organizations out there that give you the opportunity to actually get to know youths that are not just within your country but also in different places. And when you build that friendship, I think that is when people would start thinking about, oh yeah, like that really is what ASEAN is about, and that's something that we hope to also recreate in our webinars, right? Like when we have webinars, we often also have discussion sessions, and you would hear youths very passionate youths talking about the issues that they are passionate about in their own countries. So for example, like I'm interested in gender equality, and when I hear someone else also working on gender equality in Indonesia through a webinar, I would want to connect with him and him or her, and it's something that makes me feel like I'm not the only one working on this issue in the region. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for the answer. So there are two questions that related to the racism's issues that I think can be very insightful for you to answer. So it's from Alifa Salsabila. How do you see youth across ASEAN can take the challenge of racism toward us, generally Asian, and specifically as ASEAN? Can the situations contribute to new objectives in voluntarisms? And probably you can also cover these questions from Bagas. Talking about racism that has been happened recently, what should we do if someone tries to pointing at us? We all know that Asians who's been living overseas, especially US, still struggling with this problem.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. Well, I would say, yes. I think racism, the race, some of this racist cases that we've seen circulating in Facebook or in popular media that has, I think those are actual lived experiences, and it's hard for us to deny them. And I think this is especially the case if you go to some of the Western democracies today. Unfortunately, that's there are parts of society, I guess, who hold more bigoted views. Well, I don't know if that's something you experience in your own country today. Whether we also have intra Asian kind of racism, right? I mean, Asia itself is also a very diverse group, and And I'm not gonna lie. I think in Singapore there is also some sentiments of xenophobia from time to time for certain nationalities, and this is something that we're very mindful of. But yeah, I think specifically on we're very cognizant of these problems, specifically on how we can work to solve them. I think well, I think I would firstly say that some of the work that we do say, and I think I can just speak to my own experience, which is kind of outside of what AYO does. But I think in the US community,
Um, Lyndon, yeah, we cannot hear you.
okay, could you hear me?
Yeah, great.
Okay, yeah, I think
Yes.
for a moment. Yeah, so I think in like I said, I think in the US, I think in the colleges, I think there are many. Well, I think in most colleges there are many youth groups and college groups who are still very passionate about specifically about Asian issues, about issues that concern say the Southeast Asian community, the Southeast Asian American community in the US, and there is a strong ally or network. That I think that we reach out to not just through our campus groups, but also different groups all across. I would say, like, in fact, I was at a conference earlier this year at UCLA where we kind of gathered different Southeast Asian youth groups to kind of talk about what campus advocacy means to us, and what we can do, kind of workshops that we can do to start tackling some of these issues, especially in like with the Black Lives Matter movement in the US. But I think, obviously the US experience may not be directly, it's not something that's immediate impact on the ASEAN community in Singapore, in Southeast Asia. But I think the experience really kind of speaks out to us to say that, hey, if you see racism, not just call it out, but also reach out to other groups in the region who are actively trying to push the conversation on this, work with them to actually have joint webinars. And if this is something, that you're interested to work on, and you want to have a workshop on this, reach out to us again. We would love to talk to you about this. Maybe you can, we can do a screening on our, we can conduct a Zoom workshop on this through one of the AYO social media platforms.
Great. I think that's all. Like, you have covered all of these questions, but there are. I know we are reaching our the end, but there are two questions that is related to AYO, and I think we can merge them. The second last question is from Fahri. I could see that AYO has been an inspiration to a lot of other youth organizations and programs. Do you think that having a lot of other organizations take away the importance of AYO in the futures? And also, I think the questions from Trustin is also very related to AYO. There are many youth initiatives and associations in the ASEAN regions. What were the success factors that set AYO apart from the other youth organizations?
Right. Oh, okay, great. Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy that I mean, on behalf of AYO, that we that people do see the good work that we're doing. Well, I think I can take both of these questions at go. Maybe I can first start with what I think it is, just in my opinion, that I think really kind of sets us apart. One, I think having a strong network of youths that we've built all across the different ASEAN nations. I think this is something that we actively do. We will appoint, country representatives and also chapter representatives to really kind of spearhead their effort in their countries. And this, with that network, it really kind of allows us to have a much stronger reach. And this is one of the reasons why our Facebook and our Instagram has, I think, considerably more following than maybe peer organizations. So we are very targeted in that, right? Like I would say, like, for example, even in our AYO program, ambassador program, we would, I'll be frank that we would give a special consideration to some countries where we would, where we do actually seek to expand our network there. Obviously, we have a very strong network in places like Indonesia, but there are other places, say in Laos, where we're still looking to expand into, and we're constantly recruiting people, and we're very strategic about getting people on board to build a new network there, and to continue to work and give them the resources they need to build the network there. So I think building a network is one. I think the other factors is having, like second factor I would think of is having a very bold vision, which is to actually unite so many youths, or like Fadila say, oh my god, like it sounds ambitious that y'all want to impact 10 million youths. But I think the thing about ambitious goals is that ambitious goals are what makes people excited and what makes people want to actually take out the time to do this. I would say that most of the people, the committee members are volunteers, and they're taking time out of out of their free time from their work and also from their school to actually work on this. And people will actually want to do that when they actually see the good impact and also the ambitious goal that we're chasing after, and also time and time again that we're able to actually gather support for the work that we do. Whether is it this year that we're very quickly able to kind of connect up with the EU ASEAN Commission to actually work with the EU ASEAN ambassador to have an event, or to even get
Lyndon. Sorry for the technicalities. You can wait for a bit for Lyndon to come back. Yes.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
No worries.
As I was saying, having a strong network, having an ambitious goal, and I think last but not least, I think another success factor for us is that we're constantly thinking of sustainable impact. In fact, this year we are, I think at the organization level, we're thinking of how to actually hire, like permanent staff to actually do this, or to remunerate our members to actually do this, so that people are able to do this on a more sustainable basis, and we can really kind of create an impact for the longer run. So I think these three factors really, I would say, set us apart. And yeah, I wouldn't say like I think it would be I wouldn't say like yes, AYO is really very important, but I think what we're seeking to do right now is to actually get more accreditation, a formal accreditation from the ASEAN Secretariat. The ASEAN Secretariat is a partner we've been working very closely with. In fact, this year in their 5-year youth plan, they actually invited both our co-founders to actually join in the discussions with some of their permanent staff about how we can actually think about youth engagement for the region in the next 5 years. And we're very happy, obviously, to be part of a high-level discussion like this. And obviously, getting a formal accreditation going forward would be something that would, that will again, I think cement, affirm the work that we do, and also hopefully through the accreditation can allow us to have a better position to actually serve the ASEAN community. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's all for my response to the two questions. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Lyndon, for answering our last questions. That was very insightful discussions, and thank you so much for sharing with us. So before we conclude, because we are also right on time, are there any key message you would like to reiterate to all the audiences with us today?
Thank you for joining the webinar. Very, very happy that you took time out for this to hear the work that we do at AYO. Again, I want to encourage you. It's never too late to start. It's never too young neither is it ever too late to start working on an ASEAN level issue or a regional issue. I'm sure all of you are already creating impact in your own local and national community. So I think I would encourage you to start thinking about the impact you can make for the region. Be ambitious, and obviously, if you want to join us, go to our website, express your interest, be on our listserv, be on our newsletter so that we can contact you, and reach out to us. I think there are many good ideas and also issues that you all raised. So if there's something in particular that you're interested like a webinar you want to hold, say on racism, say on nationalism, economic nationalism, there's a speaker you want to invite and you want to work through our platform to do this, do reach out to me. You can I would share I would just type you can reach me at Lyndon at ASEANYouth.net. I would send my contact information to Fadila, and she can help to disseminate that. But if not, continue to make the good impact that you do. Join a regional group, and most importantly, have fun and make friends all across ASEAN. I think that for me is my biggest treasure. I think working with my team, there are a lot of Indonesians. It's one of the things that make me the happiest, and it's something that draws me to the group every time. Yeah. So if not, thank you for the session.
All right. Thank you so much, Lyndon. I think I will also sign up definitely for your sharing. And again, it was an honor for me to be your moderator, Lyndon, and of course for the audience. Let this be a small step forward in realizing the visions for an ASEAN identity, particularly for us, the youth. And so that's it. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you so much for listening and also tuning in. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Lyndon. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, so I would like to remind for all the audience that's still tuning in, if you would like to collect your e-certificate, the link is here. Just a quick reminder that this event is part of an event series to commemorate of the ASEAN Day. And we also have a content competitions with a prize of up to $150 to 3 winners of Apple gift cards that you can join on the link below. We would also be rolling out for more webinars in the future. So please tuning in to our Instagram at ASC UGM for our future events. Thank you and have a great day.